on this evening. It's, I think, an important time for community to gather.
הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, נשבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, נשבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, נשבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, נשבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, נשבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
Adonai, teacher of prayer, open your lips within me, for I cannot speak. Send me words to help me shape your praise, to bring peace and blessing to my days. Too often the world has stifled all words of blessing within me. So much has threatened to break my spirit. Help me, Adonai, for I have been so very low. Then you heal the broken in spirit and joy. In your compassion, in your boundless love, give me words of prayer, then accept them from me. May my words, your words, be sweet and whole before you as the words of King David, sweet singer of psalms. I am so often weary, empty, dry. In thirst and hunger, I seek comfort, even joy. Transform my sorrow, Adonai. Help me to renew my faith, my hope, as I raise my soul toward you. Open your lips within me, Adonai, that I might speak your praise. And so we turn to traditional words of praise, two prayers that come from the morning service. The first one is the prayer for our body. We recognize what a miracle it is when we say these words. Blessed are you, our eternal God, creator of the universe, who has made our bodies in wisdom, creating openings, arteries, glands, and organs, marvelous in structure, intricate in design. Should one of them, by being blocked or opened, fail to function, it would be difficult to stand before you. We praise you, O God, healer of all flesh, working wonders. And the second prayer is a prayer for our soul, something we can't see or touch, but a miraculous gift from God. Our tradition tells us that each soul is pure. Elohai neshama, benatata bi tahora hi.
Elohai, Elohai, neshama, שנתת בי טהוראי. אלוהי, אלוהי, נשמה, שנתת בי טהוראי. אתה בראת, אתה יצרת, אתה נפחת בי, ואתה משמרה בקרבי. אלוהי, אלוהי, נשמה, שנתת בי טהוראי.
My God, I thank you for my life and my soul and my body, for my name, for my way of thinking and talking. Help me realize that in my qualities I am unique in the world and that no one like me has ever lived. For if there had ever before been someone like me, I would not have need to exist. Help me make perfect my own ways of loving and caring, that by becoming complete in my own way, I can honor your name and help bring about the coming of a better world. So we turn to the words of the prophet Isaiah, who spoke of a better world, that a time and a place where nations would not make war against each other, but also it speaks to the war that goes on inside the human heart. And so when we sing Lo Yisagoy El Goy Charev, we're also talking about ourselves, that we may be at peace, not only nations at peace, but that we may be at peace in our hearts and minds. We sing Lo Yisagoy.
Lo yisagoy el goy cherem, lo yumedu od milchama. Lo yisagoy el goy cherem, lo yumedu od milchama. Lo yisagoy el goy cherem, lo yumedu od milchama. Lo yisagoy el goy cherem, lo yumedu od milchama. Lo yisagoy el goy cherem, lo yumedu od milchama. Lo yisagoy el goy cherem, lo yumedu od milchama.
O my Creator, my soul's compassion, my heart's precious friend, I turn to you. I need to close out the noise, to rise above the noise that interrupts, the noise that separates, the noise that isolates. I need to hear you again. In the silence of my innermost being, in the fragments of my yearned for wholeness, I hear whispers of your presence, echoes of the past when you were with me, when I felt your nearness, when together we walked, when you held me close, embraced me in your love, laughed with me in my joy. I yearn to hear you again. In your oneness, I find healing. In the promise of your love, I am soothed. In your wholeness, I too can become whole again. Please listen to my call. Help me find the words. Help me find the strength within. Help me shape my mouth, my voice, my heart, so that I can direct my spirit and find you in prayer. In words only my heart can speak, in songs only my soul can sing. Lifting my eyes and heart to you, Adonai Sifatai Tiftach, open my lips, precious God, so that I can speak with you again. So we'll pause for a moment of private prayer and meditation, a moment to relax. Perhaps people have been spending some time today in front of various kinds of screens, whether on Zoom calls and meetings or watching televised returns or whatever. We may be a little stiff and a little sore from this. And so I invite you to just get in touch with your own breathing, to just slow down and feel the breath come in and go out. You can stretch as you breathe if you like. It's a good time to roll your neck a little bit and maybe breathe in as you turn to one side. Roll your neck, your head to the other side, not so much that it hurts, but just so you can feel that stretch as you breathe out and breathe in. If you like, you can imagine that breath. Imagine the breath as that breath of God that breathes the soul into us, as our tradition tells us. So with each breath that we breathe in creation. With each breath we breathe out peace into the world. So breathe in creation, and breathe out peace. We pause for a moment of prayer and meditation.
we're aware that the rhythms of our breath are part of our connection to our Creator, to that sense of the divine in our lives. And so we'll turn to words of peace so that with that connection to the breath, we hope to be able to access and bring that sense of healing and completion into our lives, that sense of shalom. And so we'll sing these words, Oseh, Shalom, Bimromav, together. Oseh, Shalom, Bimromav. Uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'inu. Amen. Oseh shalom imromah. Uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'inu. Amen. Ay na 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 lay lay la la lay na 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 lay na 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 lay ay na 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 lay lay la la lay na 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 lay na 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 lay Oseh shalom imromah uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'inu. Amen.
We know that the world is not yet perfect, that we are partners with God in trying to do tikkun olam and make it better. And yet we also know that there is a spirituality of imperfection when things are not quite right. And so we recognize that tonight as well. And we say a poem by the poet Danny Siegel, "Praised be the Lord of imperfection. Your flaws are everywhere. In the elm's unbalanced foliage and the asymmetric faces of your creatures. You form the ripping floods that tear the forests and bend tornadoes in a twisted dance. The lion is blotched with age and mud, and the Shabbos silverware lies stained as a reminder. Praised be your Torah of scratches and scars. Praised be your discolorations, for they are puzzles and poems of your sacred character." We stay in touch with our breathing as we turn to the most familiar words of our tradition, the Shema, but we make it a little unfamiliar by taking it nice and slow, breathing slowly, and one word, one breath as we sing the words of Shema.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Our thoughts turn to those who are in need of healing. And tonight, perhaps we think of an entire nation in need of healing. We think of all those suffering in this time of pandemic. We think of all those suffering from acts of violence and pain. We think of those recovering from storms and fires in our nation. We think of all those close to our heart, those whose names we know, those whose names we don't. We ask God to bring them all a healing of body and of mind and of spirit. So we sing Debbie Friedman's arrangement of Misha Berach.
Misha Berach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Leimoteinu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishe Berach Imoteinu Mekor HaBracha La'avoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
May it be your will, our God and God of our mothers and fathers, that the scourge of disease soon disappear. May those afflicted know only strength and wholeness. May their families, lovers, and loved ones know words of comfort. May their faces never forget how to form smiles. May their thoughts abound in dreams. May their hearts know only to hope. Refa'enu Adonai v'nirafeh, Hoshienu v'nivasheh, V'ha'alei refuah shlema l'kol makotenu, Baruch atah Adonai rofecha holim. Heal us, O God, and we shall be healed. Help us and save us, and grant healing to all who are stricken. Praised are you, O God, eternal healer of the universe. Now, as our numbers are starting to grow, as people are coming, I think, for our 7 o'clock gathering as well, this is the time in our healing service when we would usually pass around a bowl of fragrant spices if we were in a room together. We're going to do it a little differently tonight, in part because we're taping and recording, in part because our numbers are growing. So that bowl is sort of like a talking stick where people get to tell a story of something good that's happened in their lives over the last month that they are keeping with them. And so I invite all of you on your own, rather than to share out loud, to think about this past month, something that's happened that was good for you in your life. It can be very personal, or it can be bigger than the personal, whatever it might be. Just hold it in your heart and imagine, if you will, those spices that we pass around at Havdalah, those fragrant smells, because when we associate that positive memory with a beautiful smell as well, it lasts and lasts and lasts. Sometimes that lasts a lifetime. So I invite you to think of that positive moment from this last month, hold it close to your heart, and bring it in like a fragrance into your mouth, into your mind, and hold on to it. We'll pause for just a moment to let you do that. We'll continue with a poem by the rabbi from California, Rabbi Harold Schulweis. It's called "It Is Never Too Late." The last word has not been spoken. The last sentence has not been written. The final verdict is not in. It is never too late to change my mind, my direction, to say no to the past and yes to the future, to offer remorse, to ask and give forgiveness, It is never too late to start over again, to feel again, to love again, to hope again. It is never too late to overcome despair or turn sorrow into resolve and pain into purpose. It is never too late to alter my world, not by magic incantations or manipulations of the cards or deciphering the stars, but by opening myself to curative forces buried within, to hidden energies, the powers in my interior self. In sickness and in dying, it is never too late. Living, I teach. Dying, I teach. How I face pain and fear. Others observe me, children, adults, students of life and death, learn from my bearing, my posture, my philosophy. It is never too late. Some word of mine, some touch, some caress may be remembered. Some gesture may play a role beyond the last movement of my head and hand. Write it on my epitaph that my loved ones be consoled. It is never too late. We conclude our healing service and then move into our gathering for this evening with the words of the Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. This is a punctuation mark in our tradition. The Kaddish is said in services at the end of each section of the service on Shabbat. At a traditional service, we say this 7 times, we say Kaddish. So it is in a way a punctuation mark between life and death, this world and the next. Tonight, it also serves as our punctuation mark between our healing service and our unity gathering. But we say these words in memory of all those whom we've loved and lost, those who are meaningful to us and to our lives. We say it for those who have no one else to say it for them. We say it for those who have died in recent days and weeks in this time of pandemic, who've died in acts of violence in our nation and around the world, those victims of terror in other places and nearer to us. We think of those who've died in fires and storms in our nation as well. We say these words of peace, the Kaddish Yatom. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, bi'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyom uvchayei d'chol beit Yisrael, b'agalav v'zman hariv v'imru, amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevorach, ome ome, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha brichu, leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran bi'alma v'imru, amen. Yehi Shlomo Rabba min Shamayah, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. It is 7:01, so exactly time, I think, to begin the next phase of our evening, a few moments to gather together, a few moments hopefully for some unity and community as we gather. I just want to start by saying a couple of words about what I did yesterday. I know that a lot of you were engaged in a lot of different ways. I had the honor of being up in Kenosha, Wisconsin yesterday. I was a pole chaplain, which a group of interfaith clergy spread out all across the state of Wisconsin to every polling place that they could possibly get to, just to be there, just to, with fears that there might be tension in the air, you know, that it might be nice to have people that, you know, the emails kept telling me to wear my collar, which was interesting because obviously I don't wear a collar, but I did wear my kippah. But I have to say, you know, that it was one of those days that actually restores your faith in humanity, because it wasn't anything that people feared it might be. there wasn't politicking, there wasn't yelling, there wasn't fighting, there weren't people carrying visible weapons. I mean, all these things that were of concern, at least in the polling places that I was at in Kenosha, and I actually visited a few of them. It was actually very quiet, perhaps even a little dull, but that was okay considering what people were afraid of. I had leftover Halloween candy, so I was able to hand it out to people as they were waiting to go in to vote, which, early in the day, nobody really cared about. But as people were coming around 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6, coming from work and not yet having dinner, they were pretty happy to get a piece of Halloween candy. So it was actually quite a delight, and something that really speaks to the possibility that roots build relationships, that we can be together. And so we want to welcome you all tonight. We want to sing some songs that we all know. So we're going to begin with a song by Woody Guthrie, "This Land Is Your Land."
And certainly one of the purposes of gathering tonight is to experience this sense of support and community. So everyone, please sing along. We'll project the words as you see. And when you are singing along, just make sure microphones are muted so that we can all kind of hear the same audio material. And it's also nice to kind of remind ourselves, as Rabbi was teaching us, these human connections are such a part of our sense of identity as Americans. And a big part of that is the natural beauty of our country as well. So we give thanks to that with this song. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Islands, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me. As I went walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Islands, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me. I roamed and rambled and followed my footsteps to the sparkling sands of her diamond deserts, and all around me a voice was sounding. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream water, this land was made for you and me. Oh, this land was made for you and me.
Thank you. That was great, Cantor Jay. And there is a connection between Woody Guthrie and the Jewish community. As Cantor Jay and I were talking about this a while back, he actually Woody Guthrie wrote some Hanukkah songs. So maybe we can dust some of those off, as the season comes around.
Yeah, right around the corner.
Yeah. So in our Siddur, in our prayer book, there are a couple of prayers on a page that is labeled Prayers of Our Community. And I'd like to share them with you. The first one is the prayer for our country. O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit. Let us say, Amen. Amen. And there is also a prayer for our congregation, and I think that too is appropriate in this moment, so I'd love to share that as well. Source of all being, may the children of this community learn their passions from us, love of Torah, devotion in prayer, and support of the needy. May we guide with integrity. May our leadership be in your service. May those who teach and nourish us be blessed with satisfaction. May we appreciate their time and their devotion. Bless us with the fruits of wisdom and understanding. May our efforts bring fulfillment and joy. We're going to turn to a few words of text this evening. I actually talked about this at a different meeting a few weeks ago, but I wanted to share a little bit of a story from the book of First Kings. It's a kind of a strange story. It's really a story about the worst king in Israelite history, King Ahab. It's chapter 21 of the book of First Kings. If anybody has a Bible at home, feel free to look it up and follow along if you like. But I'm going to kind of summarize it because it's a little bit of a lengthy text. But there's a few key points to it. King Ahab was in his palace, and he really wanted the land next door to his palace. This was the land that belonged to a vineyard that belonged to a guy named Naboth. And Naboth, he goes to see Naboth to buy this land from him. Now, keep in mind what I said about Ahab. Ahab, I don't think anyone would contradict me. If you read the story of Ahab, tradition says Ahab is the worst king that the Israelites ever had, right? But Naboth wants this vineyard to be a vegetable garden because it's right next to his palace. And he goes to Naboth and he says, "Give me your vineyard so that I may have it as a vegetable garden, since it is right next to my palace. I will give you a better vineyard in exchange, or if you prefer, I will pay you the price in money." So this is very reasonable. But Naboth replies, "The Lord forbid that I should give up to you what I have inherited from my fathers." So Ahab went home dispirited and sullen because of the answer that Naboth the Israelite had given him. "I will not give up to you what I have inherited from my fathers." He lay down on his bed and turned away his face, and he would not eat. So, what I want to suggest to you from this story is that even King Ahab has to follow the rule of law, right? That our tradition, the Israelite tradition, is about the rule of law. We have rules, we have mitzvot, we have things that we are supposed to do. And this king does exactly that. Now, he's a king, he sulks, he's it's an interesting story. But it's a reminder to us that one of the great beauties of what's happened in these last couple of days is that the rule of law takes hold, that every 4 years, Americans go to the polls and they vote, and, the laws take hold. And so that's what we're looking at now and in the next few days. Now, I will say this story goes on, and it's worth perhaps going on a little bit and saying that Ahab's wife is also someone whose name might actually be familiar to you, even if you haven't read through the whole Bible. The name is Jezebel, right? So, and Jezebel in the Bible is kind of Lady Macbeth, right? So in this story, when Jezebel hears that Naboth won't sell this land to King Ahab, she plots and she makes it happen. She actually gets two people to bear false witness against Naboth. And once he is removed from the scene, then Ahab can take that land that he had wanted in the first place, right? So the second thing I'd say about this is that things take time in tradition, right? That what's true today is not necessarily always true. This is worth remembering in all situations, right? It's worth remembering when we say that this too shall pass. That's an important thing to remember when things are good and when things are bad, right? This too shall pass. And the final part of this story that I want to tell you is about the prophet Elijah, because this is where the prophet Elijah shows up in the Bible, is in this part of the book of First Kings. And it's the prophet Elijah who comes to tell Ahab that he has done wrong, that he and Jezebel together have done wrong in taking this land from Naboth. And so Isaiah, being a prophet, prophesies and says that one day what you have done to Naboth, that is exactly what will be done to you. And this is perhaps an important thing for us to remember, that we reap what we sow. So when we put peace into the world, ultimately we reap peace. When we don't, then eventually those things come back to bite us as well. So I thought that this was a good text for the evening. Perhaps you disagree, and I think we have a few minutes for people, if you like, to unmute and talk about the story a little bit. So I see in the chat, I mean, a couple of people are saying, yeah, the term karma, I mean, obviously not a Jewish term, but I think that the ancient text does suggest some of that, right? This is exactly what the prophet Elijah says to Ahab, right? Things take time. Other thoughts? Would people like to say something about this text? We have a couple of screens, so I can't see people. So if you have something to say, you can just unmute. But it said, the thing where the three lessons we want to take away is that laws have meaning and laws take hold. Things take time. And what we put into the world, we receive. And so no matter what happens in the next hours, days, still, we knew when we scheduled this that we probably wouldn't have a complete and full answer. But we also thought that, no matter what, the world is not the world that we want it to be. And we have work to do to put love into the world, to put peace into the world, to make justice reign in the world. A different prophet, Amos, says, let justice roll down as waters and righteousness as a mighty stream.
And Ike?
Yes.
And as you sow, so shall you reap.
Yep. I think that's right. So I think that's actually from somebody else's text, but that's a good one too. So, we've learned these things throughout our lives, right? I see Andy. Andy,
Yeah.
Well,
I think I'm on mute, right? I'm okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I've actually been thinking about this time part of it and the patience, that we are so used to everything being so instantaneous and immediate. gratification and all these things. And we live in such a fast world, and we can't get this answer in the time that we have to, it's facing us, this, too bad, we have to wait. And the virus, that it's taking so long, and we want, we wanted to open for Easter. I mean, we I shouldn't have said that, I know. But I just think that there's all these forces that are showing us something about time. And even climate change, it would not be so severe if things weren't going so fast. It's the speed at which things are changing that has not allowed the natural world to adjust. So
Yeah.
I just think there's a lot about time to be thought about here.
I was reading something earlier today about, I wrote about it in a letter that hopefully some of you saw over the last few days, the midah of savlanut, which is patience, right? A very important value in our tradition. And one of the things I was reading about is that when we talk about the Middle East, right, and the quest to make peace in the Middle East, one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that generations is a reasonable time frame. Right? That, when we talk about how long, how fast should something happen, how long should it go? And Andy, you're absolutely right. If we call for takeout food and it takes more than 20 minutes, we get upset, right? Some things take generations. Right?
I heard a Muslim, this was years ago, but he pointed out that this was more like a blip in the span of time.
Mhm.
And that it was just that he was optimistic because he felt that we always did get along, and this is short, relatively speaking.
I think that that's actually true historically speaking. So my point is that from 1948 to now, I mean, that's a few generations we've made, to make something lasting and meaningful, and that's really peace. Generations is a reasonable time frame, right? To think about something like that. So I know that one of the things we've been thinking about is this song that Kenner's Olam Chesed, right? Olam Chesed Yebaneh, which is we will build this world with love. And again, I mean, I think that's a carefully chosen set of terms, right? Building the world with love. You don't build something overnight, right? Not something that lasts. And so Olam Chesed Yebaneh is about a long journey to make things, the world, as I've heard Rabbi Evans say many times, the world that is into the world that ought to be, right?
I'm here, everybody.
Yeah, I see you. So
Sorry I'm late.
it's good. So that's what we're aiming for always, no matter what happens in any election, right? The goal is always to be moving to building the world better.
Thank you, Rabbi Ike, for wonderful teachings. And how about we sing now together this beautiful song? And just a reminder to everyone that all of our mobilization efforts leading up to this election, they don't just stop at this point. Now we have to renew our efforts to build this world out of chesed, the sense of compassion and love that binds us all in community. Let's sing together. Olam chesed yibaneh, yanenai, yanenai, Olam chesed yibaneh, yanenai, yanenai, Olam chesed yibaneh, yanenai, yanenai, Olam chesed yibaneh, yanenai, yanenai. Now to the English words. I will build this world from love. Yanenai, yanenai, and you must build this world from love. Yanenai, yanenai. And if we build this world from love, yanenai, yanenai, then God will build this world from love. Yanenai, yanenai. Olam cheseni b'nei, yanenai, yanenai. Olam cheseni b'nei, yanenai, yanenai.
That was beautiful. I don't know how we're kind of structuring it, but I wanted to share I heard something on a podcast today, and I listened to several, so I forgot which one it was, but I thought it was really well stated, and I would love to hear others' reflections on it. It was about sort of dealing with, it's almost a way of savlanut, and also a matter of perspective. And the quote, I should have written down who it was from. It was, the stakes are high, but they are not ultimate. The stakes are high, but they are not ultimate. And what I thought was so powerful about that was, it kind of reminds us, there's a sense of humility, and there's a sense of keeping everything in perspective and not letting anxiety or worry paralyze us. You know, some people can become so paralyzed with fear or anxiety that they just don't act. And that in some ways, when we remember that, yes, all of this matters deeply, but we are also human beings, and that whatever happens, we get up the next day, we live, we love, we work, we connect, that's something important to keep in mind. I don't know, does that strike anybody else the same way it struck me? Or I don't know, some people might say that that's, you know, that's being too complacent. I don't think so. But to me, it was comforting from a religious perspective to remember that there are more, I don't want to say important things in politics, because obviously politics is critical, but it's not the only thing in the world. There are so many bigger challenges and things that and challenges and opportunities that invite us to act. There are so many ways we can make a difference, you know, even if things don't always go our way. Does that make sense? Any comments or reactions? Yeah, Sally. Unmute. Haven't seen you in a while, Sally. It's nice to see you. Unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
Is that right? Do you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay. I thought someone was talking to me.
No, go ahead.
No, just say your last part of what you were saying.
I was just asking if that struck anyone else as a meaningful teaching about that the stakes are high, but they are not ultimate.
I believe the stakes are high when the time happens at the moment. Like right now, stakes seem like the highest thing of who we're choosing as a president or whatever. And of course, you compare it to the virus, it isn't as high, but there are things that are happening in each person's life daily that may take precedence over whatever's going on in the world.
That's true. We're always balancing challenges. You know, there's a teaching from Musar, and obviously we shouldn't take this so, you know, we shouldn't follow it to the letter, but it is an important teaching. It says, you know, Musar is what, you know, Ashley has taught and taught about character traits. And the Musar teaching says, I set out to change the world, but the world didn't change. So then I set out to change my country, but my country didn't change. And I set out to change my community, but my community didn't change. Then I set out to change my family, but my family didn't change. Then I set out to change myself, and I'm still working on it.
Uh-huh.
So that's not an excuse. That doesn't mean that you should work on yourself to the exclusion of other things. That's certainly not what I'm saying. But it's also saying that there are lots of areas where we can grow and work.
Constantly.
Other comments, reactions? I love that teaching.
Mhm.
Who else has their hand up? Any other reactions? Anyone have other ways of addressing anxiety? This, obviously things are getting a little bit clearer now, but one of the things that we actually studied today in my Ecclesiastes class is radical uncertainty. That one of the texts, it's Ecclesiastes, I think it's 9:10. It's towards the end of chapter 9, where he talks about that all the wise men of the world tried to discern the future, and no one could understand it. And then, and the commentators, Rashi, referred back and said, even Moses, the wisest person of his generation, Moshe Rabbeinu, said to God, please show me your ways. And God said, you can see my back, but you can't see my face. In other words, you can see what happened in the past, but you can't see what will happen in the future. And that to be a human being is to live with a kind of radical uncertainty. And even the smartest people in the world with the most statistics and algorithms can't predict the future. And that's something that we have to learn to live with. It's part of the human condition. We want certainty, and yet we live in a world of uncertainty. And obviously politics is filled with uncertainty, as we've seen, over the last couple of years. Someone wrote, not even Nate Silver. Yeah, I actually know Nate Silver. I did debate in high school. So I did policy debate, and I went to debate camp at the University of Michigan. It's also known as nerd camp, in case anyone was wondering. But so I went to debate camp, and my last year I was in the highest group, the top group in the country. And Nate Silver was in my cohort. There were 16 of us. And Nate Silver, he was very quiet. He wasn't really friends with anybody. We knew each other's name. We were in the same group of 16 kids. He did not talk very much. He was from East Lansing, Michigan. Everyone knew he was very, very smart. And then he went to the University of Chicago. And I kind of lost touch with him. Obviously, I didn't stay friends with him. I should have. But he is not. He's extremely smart. But even with all the stats and all the algorithms, people. That's just generally a truth about life. If people knew the future, then there would be no such thing as the future. We live in a world of radical uncertainty, and coming to terms with that is part of the human condition. And I think we saw that again this year. And who knows what the future holds? And I think that's something as Jews. My dad made this point in the class today about Ecclesiastes, that the Jewish people have dealt with trauma so many times, and we have seen good situations, deteriorate, that we have learned to adapt and live with radical uncertainty and to create preparedness. That's part of what, the founder of chaos theory, John von Neumann, who was a great mathematician, was a Jewish guy. The study of risk has really been really pioneered by Jewish scientists. So there is something about the study of uncertainty and accounting for that uncertainty and trying to live with that uncertainty. You can't manage the uncertainty, but that's been part of the challenge of living, and Jews have faced that for a long time. Other questions or comments? Where does God fit in our understanding or dealing with uncertainty? Well, that's a great question, Howard. So I would say from a biblical perspective, there is no uncertainty because there's still human uncertainty, but you take comfort in the knowledge that everything happens for a reason. In Ecclesiastes, also in the book of Job, God is in charge. And when things don't seem to make sense, then we just don't understand the full picture. And it could be even tragedy. We don't understand the full picture. And sometimes it doesn't even make logical sense, but that is the traditional understanding that everything has a purpose. And sometimes it's for human beings to know the purpose and sometimes it's not. So I would say from a more contemporary theological point of view, really pioneered by Harold Kushner and When Bad Things Happen to Good People, would say that God is a source of comfort and healing in times of uncertainty, but God doesn't know the answer to everything. That God is more of a presence and a generator of values than a omnipotent being in the universe. So it kind of depends on which theological perspective you take about dealing with uncertainty. But in either perspective, whether you believe God is in charge or whether you believe God is simply a source of healing, the larger point is we human beings don't know. Because we're human, we're never going to know. That's part of the human condition. There was a great 11th century rabbi, Joseph Albo, who said, if I knew everything, I would be God. That's not within the human purview. And so that's something that's hubris. When we believe we have all the answers from whatever political perspective or whatever religion, we think we know all the answers, we're wrong, because we don't. We're human beings. That's part of our condition. Now we can learn, we can grow, we can learn more about the world, of course, but there's a certain kind of humility that we have to embrace. Good. Other thoughts or questions? Yes, Sally?
Yeah, and why that's always comes up in my mind with why was there a Holocaust? What were we trying to learn, etc. And they said once one of the rabbis prior to you said that sometimes it's our place as human beings to accept the fact that there are things that we don't know, of course, but that man has choices. And the choice may be to do this. It's not his job to make the choice. It's our job to make the choices.
That's well said. Well, we could do a whole series on Holocaust theology, probably outside the purview of tonight, but there's a good point. Good. Nancy Coleman. Oh, it's nice to see you too. I haven't seen you in a while. Nancy, go ahead.
Is she muted?
Okay, well, Nancy must have had her hand up, but maybe it's gone. Other thoughts, other reactions?
Evan, it occurs to me, as you've been teaching, I was thinking about that story from our tradition about the old man planting the tree, with the emperor going by, going back to the Roman Empire, right? And the Roman emperor stops and looks at this elderly Jew planting a tree and says, you can't possibly hope to eat the fruit of that tree. And he says, no, I'm planting it for the generations that come after me.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
So that idea, what was it? The stakes are high, but not ultimate, right? I mean, it's, we're not going to see the end of Tikkun Olam, right? We're not going to finish the job of repair. We're planting seeds, as many as we can plant. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think that's a certain kind of, and that's a certain kind of humility that comes from seeing ourselves as part of a people, part of a nation, that we are part of a group that comes before us, and we are part of. That's one of the things I love in that reading we do on the environment every week. That line about we are stewards of the earth, and we are sort of the caretakers for this generation. I forget the exact language used in the prayer. It's really beautiful. But that's a very, very powerful idea. Good. Others? Nancy, now I see you.
Okay, I'm here. What I keep thinking of is the Talmudic phrase is that the work is long, but we are not, it's hard, but we are not deflected from it. We
Yeah.
have to pursue it. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what I looked up the exact quote, I don't have it, but that there is a lot to do. There's always a lot to do. And I feel like my next step is to follow through on what's happened in this country and with bigotry and all the rest of it, and to actually take action. And you're never going to solve it completely. It's always going to be a challenge, but I'm willing to throw my hat in the ring. Sorry for the mixed metaphor. My
I
keep
like
on.
that. Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor, velo alecha ligmor. It is not incumbent upon you to complete the work, but neither are you free to desist from it. That's the quote. There's another Talmudic verse. They're both from Pirkei Avot, which I've been thinking of teaching a class on Pirkei Avot. But I want to read a book on Pirkei Avot. But the other quote is, the task is great, the day is long, and the master of the house is pressing. That there's a certain kind of pressure to do the work, that we can't sit idly by. That's very important. Even if we can't finish it, we can't sit idly by. I mean, this is the same kind of general point. Other thoughts?
I
Yes,
see Gil there trying to
Yeah,
get it.
Gil.
yes, I would relate that to everybody's thoughts about this election. Whether it is what you're looking for or not what you're looking for, it is not ultimate. Life will go on, the things will go on, the politicians will go on, our lives will go on, the country will go on. Whatever the outcome is, everything
Got
will
it.
go on.
That's
It
what I was
is
trying to
not
say.
ultimate.
That's exactly what I was trying to say. That you have to go on either way. You have to. Life doesn't always turn out the way we thought it should or thought it would. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it turns out great. God willing. We hope it does. We hope in every area of life. But the work still calls out to us. That's very well put, Gil.
Thank you.
Other thoughts? Or should we move to another musical interlude?
Rhonda Lindner. has
Oh,
something.
Rhonda, go ahead. Rhonda?
She's trying to unmute. She's trying to unmute.
I think I've unmuted.
Okay, yep.
So I know we were talking a lot about the Tikkun Olam and the work and, what you accept and what you work for. And I thought that was a great time just to thank all the congregants, all the members of Macomb for the tremendous work that people put into this election. However it ends. But I think, so many of us can say we did what we could to repair our corner of the world. And I just wanted to give a big shout out. And I know we all have to be patient, more patient than probably any of us have ever wanted to be. So I just want to thank everyone from Macomb for the work they put in. And I know Diane and Wendy will probably put a plug in for our where we go to from here, which will be soon enough. So thank you everyone for all your work.
The other thing I kind of want to teach, and I guess this is also, that's so well put, and what you just said kind of reminded me of our work of sort of as a community is, this is really the lesson of Tisha B'Av. And I don't know if someone's already mentioned this story, but Kamsa and Bar Kamsa and the danger of hate, that the temple was destroyed because of hatred amongst the Jewish community, that people hated one another who were part of the same community. And I worry, as I was driving the other day, I was coming back from Waldheim Cemetery. We had a service there yesterday, and there was a huge sign on the tri-state that said anamericandivorce.com. And it was like, are we going to divorce? Is America going to get divorced into two countries? That was the sign on the tri-state. It was right kind of coming from the south, going north towards the airport, towards O'Hare. And, it really struck me. We wouldn't have seen that sign 4 years ago, 10 years ago. And there's a lot of division right now.
No.
And part of our task is to not let that, to build more bridges. And it's a scary thought. It really is. There's a lot of division. And we don't want to end up like Kamsa and Bar Kamsa in the kind of hatred of our brothers and sisters that destroyed the Jewish people in the first century. I mean, Judaism almost died. This is the internecine warfare within Judaism almost destroyed the Jewish people during the time of the Maccabees. And the Maccabees fought other Jews. And then in the Sadducees and the Pharisees, I mean, there's been a lot of internal Jewish tension. And that is dangerous. And it's dangerous in America too.
Mhm.
That's not a very healing or comforting thought, but it did come to mind that that's part of our challenge. I was really struck by that sign. It hit me hard.
Yeah, well, let me give you the healing side of that, right? Is that one of the things that's beautiful about the Talmud is that they report everybody's opinion, right? All the rabbis who are arguing about something, you get, well, this one that said this and that one said that, and they don't always agree with each other. And yet, the famous story is, of course, Hillel and Shammai, who are the famous disputants of the Torah. They always disagree. And yet the text also tells us that the children of the school of Hillel married the children of the school of Shammai.
Yeah.
That the disagreement was for the sake of heaven. And so that's always got to be our goal, that, we're not supposed to agree 100% all the time, right? That's not our goal. Our goal is that all our disputes are for the sake of heaven, right? To help move us forward.
Machlochet b'shem shamayim. That's very good.
Mhm.
Andy? Unmute.
Muting. I just, in relation to the ultimate, of course, this decision and what's going on is not the ultimate, but I don't think it's fair to put it in a category of, you had an argument with this one, life will go on, or this is not going right in your family. We're talking about major discrimination that's going on, unfair treatment, to say nothing of the climate. I mean, we're talking about things that are really very important, and not, everything won't go on. People will, I just think it's fair to realize that we have very big issues that we care about that are not.
No, totally. That's the challenge. I agree with you 100%. I would only say that we have to address those issues even in the face. Let's say there's an election defeat. We still have to address those issues.
Right.
It's not over. It's not as if like it's I don't think it's healthy to say it's the end of the world.
Right.
We still can work. We still can fight. That's
But
all.
just that,
And keep in mind, no matter who wins, half the country is defeated. And
right.
half wins, right? So,
Right.
so
I
we're
know.
not arguing for complacency
Right.
by any means, but as I said at the beginning, roots build relationships. So the relationships lead to change.
Your opponent shouldn't be your enemy.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a quote.
Like Hillel and Shammai.
Well put.
Yeah,
Well put.
that was a quote. I didn't make that up.
Mhm.
Other thoughts or questions?
Yeah. It's me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, to her comment, I'm thinking it's how you handle defeat.
Of
Who
course.
and how in one side are they handling it, nor the other side. And so that's the trick. Wow. How does the person decide to handle defeat?
Good. Wonderful. Other questions? It's so nice to see so many people here. I've seen a lot of when we're not together in person, you miss seeing people and their faces, and it's nice. And I didn't get to see people's faces over the holidays so much because we didn't do it by Zoom. So it's nice to see so many people here. Other questions or comments? Let's hear a little more music, Cantor.
Yeah.
Just before that, because that's going to be our closing song. I
Oh,
think.
yeah, okay.
So Diane or Wendy, would you like to say something
Yes.
about the event on the 17th?
Yes, I would. So I'd like to invite everybody on November 17th, 7 o'clock in the evening. Tikkun Olam is going to celebrate the light shining from our successful campaign, excuse me, our successful civic campaign. And we're going to continue our work to make this world a better and fairer place. So join us that evening to learn about the next steps that we're going to take.
I just want to mention our
November 17th.
campaign was to be 100% voting congregation and to
Yes,
do
we
what
have
we
a lot
could
to,
to
a lot to be
increase
thankful
voter
for.
participation around the country. And I think that we can say no matter what the outcome of the election is, we succeeded.
Yes, we did.
We did in getting our vote out and getting votes out around the nation.
No question.
And you'll hear from each one of the pillars of what we did within the election campaign. So we're going to hear from everyone about the success. So join us. It should be a wonderful evening.
Over 100 members of the congregation participated in the campaign itself, right, as well. So it's just fantastic. 4 years from now, hopefully we'll have 200 people participate in the campaign.
As they say from your mouth.
Right? You know, I mean, that's it. Our goal is, you know, our country is better when people vote. So can we turn to our closing song? It's appropriate for the evening, I think, for us to end with God Bless America.
Oh.
That's right. And not only is this a treasure of Jewish American culture that we share and celebrate, but it's also a prayer. We really do honestly direct our thoughts, our sense of positivity and optimism to guiding America to a bright and prosperous future. Let's all sing together. We have the words in front of us. And perhaps if we put our heart and soul into this, God will indeed bless our wonderful country. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Thank you, Cantor Jay. Thank you, Rabbi Evan, for the teaching. Thanks to all of you for being here this evening. We hope that we go from strength to strength and continue to do what we can for Tikkun Olam to make the world a better, more hopeful, more loving, more peaceful place. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you.
Rabbi.
Hey, Stu, nice to see you.
Thank
Nice
you.
seeing everybody.
Amazing.
Good to see everybody.
Good to see
Wonderful.
everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Lynn. Bye, Lynn.
Bye bye, Marilyn.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.